Hi, my name's Alan from Stevie Redback, Pest and Termite Control. We're here out at a property at Morayfield where a termite infestation had occurred a couple of years ago and now has re-entered the property. Virtually with this building itself, we'll be looking at what was used previously when the house was built through to what has been done since, and then what we're going to do actually today to help rectify and maintain termite prevention to this house. We're at the entranceway of the building here today. What we've got is a deck timber over the top of the actual weep holes and footings. In this area here we have a camilleri system installed. The system itself is a bit further back than how I would like it, so we probably won't use that today. With the treatment of this, we'll excavate the sands back to 50 mil below the footings and then install the product with a backfill spray over the top to form a continual barrier back to the edge. We're going to come right out to where the brick section is underneath this deck, and that way termites won't be able to come through this area, as the entire section of the soils in connection with this footing will be impregnated with premise. At the actual entranceway of the building here, we have the deck continuing through to the doorway. Okay. Areas concerning this area is the original garden boxing that was visible back from before. Now the camilleri system does run here. Again, we're not probably going to use that system. Concerns are these floor joists sitting directly on the soil and abutting the building, and the chemical barrier itself, as the footing is quite shallow in this region. There's also plastics and so forth in here that anything like that is going to obstruct the barrier from doing its job. But by treatment with this, lowering the levels of the sands back to an area that they'll be a bit of visual clearance, so that they'll prevent rot and termite entry and maintain that barrier for these particular zones. As we are here as a reinstating of a barrier, which means that the barrier had already been installed previously, we've already excavated these footings where we've turned around and dug them back to expose the actual footing itself. The footing edge is roughly here, as you can see, lines up with the existing holes. So from this area here we can reuse these holes, but we will be drilling some extra ones to make the hole spacings correct, as some of them are beyond 300 centres. We have a water line coming in, which will be just on top of the footing. The footings themselves, once we've flooded these footings and then we have to trench this back a bit further, apply the termiticide, backfill, soak till we form a continual soil barrier. With these existing holes, the hole spacings themselves in some areas, as in here, they're fine. You've got a decent hole spacings, whereas in some other areas they're a bit long in the tooth, and we've got them well above Australian standards. They're over 300. So because of that, we'll have to drill some additional holes. Areas where air conditioning units are installed, then most of the times these are movable. They flex enough to be able to gain access, as the previous operator had done. Problem with this area here is where the hole spacings, the holes being drilled directly within the joint. We prefer that you drill either side of the joint, no further than 150 of joints or excessive cracks, as the chemical itself will tend to rather run the joint or the crack rather than spread to the following holes. So you want that spreading effect underneath the slab so that the chemical overlaps. Then we have a hole spacing here well over 450, as the operator was trying to dodge the actual storm water. Simply drilling back a bit or closer to the friendlier hole would have been a better option. Now, when paving abuts a building, there's two different types. One's on bedding sand, the other will obviously be on a concrete slab. When concreted in, drilling is one of your main options, but on a bedding sand situation, this area has actually been drilled between the pavers, whereas you can actually remove these pavers and gain access to the sands and the footing beneath. Okay, they're quite easy to pull up once you get one up. You can see the operator's drilled through, pumped, treated, Chemical itself, in this situation, it would have been better to lift these products, install a reticulation system, or hand spray and backfill. The base of these pavers has been damaged. The footing itself is relatively shallow. There's a small amount of crusher dust. By the removal of the pavers and the sands in connection, you want to remove all dag and bits of extra render and brickwork that had come down onto the slab. By removal of this product, treatment, proper treatment and reinstallation, you'll get a much better result with a less chance of the product going in areas that it wasn't meant to go to. Now, from verbal reports from the customer, we had 2 years ago termites had entered this section of the building, common area being the bathroom. With the area being, the soils being backfilled, you can see by the soil level against the brick course, it was well above an area where you would like it. Okay, and there's a tremendous amount of dag. Dag is what we call the extra render that's fallen off when the brickie was installing the bricks. The footing would have been exposed, and now the dag itself rests on the footing. Landscapers go over the top of it. Until somebody comes and installs a proper termite barrier to the base of footing, this dag remains. So we find this all the time. This is dag. So that's just excess mortar that's been sitting in the ground. Most times it's quite fragile, breaks up. Now this here actually covers the footing in an area where this dag's been broken back, and this is an area where the dag is still in place. This is your number one area of termite entry. Right beneath this here is where a pipe enters the building. You can see the depth of this dag is quite excessive. Chemical poured over the top of this product, left against the building, will never treat this little bit of soil in between of about 15 to 20 mil. That 20 mil soil compound is exactly where termites are going to sneak past a standard chemical barrier. So because of this, all footings should be dug down with all dag physically removed. Once we've gotten the dag out, then you expose the footing. This dag can't go back in, because if we kick the soils back in, spray, dags back in, there can be a dried area underneath, so all dag must be removed. As you can see along this side here, there's still dag remains back at that end up there. As you can see it slope up from the actual footing and soil, and then you've got that 4-inch dag, a very thick product left behind by builders during construction. This dag itself can be quite thick and can be tough sometimes, and the use of a pick is how we actually get in and remove it. So that there is the edge of footing. That's where your treatment goes. The main part of a treatment is 50 mil below the footings to prevent termites from approaching. This dag obviously is going to obstruct that, and also shelters a degree of soil between the dag and the footing itself. So once this product's been removed, the dag taken back to the actual footing, 50 to 100 mil below, that's your actual footing. In this area here, this is where we've excavated the footing back, cleaned all the dag off it. We've got the soils back here. There was an ag system in place in this area for drainage. With this area here, we have to treat, backfill, treat, and then we'll reinstall the ag system further away from the building to allow for retreatments and make it a lot easier with the drain to work the way it was intended. And once we've done this, we'll have a continual soil barrier coming back to our finish level, not reaching above the 75 mil to the base of weep hole. So we'll lower this just a little bit. At the rear patio of the building, we have a beautiful tiled area. Installed in this tiled area is a Camilleri under-slab reticulation system. So this reticulated poison barrier runs along the perimeter of the brick course, preventing termite entry to the building by impregnating the soils under the slab without the need of drilling. So we'll recharge this system. There are 2 of these lengths in place, and that will spread chemical along the base of the footing and protect the house from termite entry from this side. Now this area of the Camilleri system is again in place, runs an extraordinary length away from the building, but by charging this system up, as I did not install the system, we've excavated the soils from around the base of the footing, and when we actually charge this system up, we're going to be inspecting here to see if the product is actually leaching through on the top of the footing. There is also a water line system created from irrigation, so that's in place, but the system itself should be running back around this line here. Now this is the affected area of the building, so termites had gained access inside this bay window area from the base of footing. Once we reinstall a chemical barrier there, that will rectify for future re-entry. The stage 1 colony control has already been carried out. During investigation, when coming out and doing an assessment of this property, we were able to identify an area of possible nest location, which we'll go and have a look at. Now, there's a lot of foliage within this area of the gardens themselves. Cellulose-based mulch is in the way of wood chip and just general timber decay. This area here was a tree that's recently been lobbed. You can see in the trunk areas where we've got excavation of termites has occurred on the internal of the actual limbs, which is a standard sort of process for white ants when getting into the crown root systems of tree stumps. It's happened on several areas of this stump itself. For this area here, we'll be excavating around the base of the tree, and we will be auger drilling and impregnating the crown root system with premise, and that will further prevent any reinfestation of this tree stump for a harbourage, and will rectify any current infestation within the stump itself. Out another area is Melaleucas. These paperbark or Melaleuca trees are preferred nesting habits for white ants as well. It's the paper fibre and a lot of moisture. During inspection of this one, excavated limbs from inside the centre of the tree show that it's a good chance for a possible nest location as well. So repeat procedure to this tree, where we'll 45 angle auger drill to the crown root, rod inject and apply just a small amount of premise, which will help maintain integrity of the tree and prevent reinfestation and kill off any current infestation. You can see more workings just off small limb sections, indicating that there has been obvious termite attack within the building. Open galleries,